Good afternoon. My name is Ginger White. I'm with the Denver Office of Cultural Affairs. I'm a Senior Economic Development Specialist within our office, and I work primarily on how to grow and strengthen the creative sector within the city and county of Denver. And certainly there are other economic development specialists within the city, but my position was created sort of as putting practice in a theory that the mayor greatly espouses to, which is embodied in the book, The Rise of the Creative Class. I don't know how many people are familiar with Richard Florida's book, and if you are, or if you're not, I definitely would recommend this. It's a book that actually was one of the mayor's required reading when he came into the administration. And the whole idea behind The Rise of the Creative Class, in some ways, is thinking about what makes a city creative and why should we care that a city is creative. In Richard Florida's book, and it's been a while since I read it, so hopefully I'm not going to completely bastardize it, but what he's talking about is that he's recognized that cities that have grown in the new economy and in the sort of a post-industrial economy are those cities that have a variety of things. They have an entrepreneurial spirit. They are oftentimes what might be considered gay-friendly. There is a milieu of people who are creative and innovative in what they do, whether that's within business, whether that's within the arts, whether that's within technology. And how do we, cities that sort of have this sort of special chemistry about them have grown. And if you look at Austin or you look at Seattle or Portland and some of those cities, you can really see that. You can see how arts and culture have been integrated as part of potentially growing and marketing and branding for that city. So in looking at, my position was created was about 4 years ago, and it was pretty soon after the mayor came into office. And again, the idea was, we know we have a pretty robust creative sector within the city and county of Denver. We have really strong arts and cultural institutions. We have a great scientific and cultural facilities district, which everyone here, part of our lunch is going to be contributing to that tax district, which then gets distributed to our nonprofit arts and cultural and humanities organizations around the city. But we also know that we have really strong for-profit creative enterprises. We know that, again, innovation and entrepreneurialism exists in arts and culture as well. And so how do we foster that? How do we grow a sector with the idea in mind that growing the sector has the ability to potentially grow and enhance and strengthen our city, both from a marketing and branding perspective, but also from an industry perspective. And so really, my position has been conceived of how do we sort of, again, take that sort of theory that I mentioned and put it into practice. So about 4 years ago, I was a startup as well, and thinking about how do we go about really doing this and tackling this really great, interesting opportunity, but without much of a roadmap. The mayor, and my director at the time, we were really on new territory. If you look at the city of Austin, they have a position called the Creative Industries Development Manager, who's done a lot with the music and film community in Austin. So that was one path to look at. In the city of Chicago, there's somebody who is a cultural planner within their Office of Cultural Affairs. And she was looking at a lot of their theater companies were getting pushed out of downtown. And so how did we go about, spatially trying to find places for what was and now has even more so a strong theater district in the heart of the Chicago Loop. So that was one other example to look at. But really, again, we were at a point where we didn't know what we didn't know, and we didn't have a lot of best practices to really think about. What we did know is that we had a strong nonprofit sector, and that nonprofit sector was a lot of ways being buoyed by the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, which I just mentioned. We didn't have that same sort of support for our art galleries, our film community, our music community, those people that are trying to make a living at a for-profit model for arts and culture. So we knew we needed to look at that. We also knew that to grow a strong and healthy creative sector, people need a space to be able to do that. And a lot of our arts and cultural businesses and nonprofits were getting priced out of downtown, or getting priced out of this, not even just downtown, getting priced out of the city and county of Denver, and they were going to Aurora or going to performing in Lakewood Cultural Center or now Broomfield and those places. So if we're trying to grow a creative sector and people can't find a place to afford to do that, there's a structural issue that's a problem. We also knew that there was financing issues that were a problem. If I'm a nonprofit, or if I'm a nonprofit organization, I can apply for foundations, or I can seek donations from my theater goers or what have you. If I'm a for-profit gallery on the Santa Fe Arts District, if I'm running into a cash flow issue, where can I go to get some support? Well, quite frankly, nowhere. And I shouldn't say nowhere, but banks are very want a traditional model. Certainly, you can't go to a for-profit, or you can't go to a nonprofit foundation to find those support. And friends and family and credit cards might be the only road. So we knew we had some real structural things that we needed to do to try to support that. And the last thing is that we also knew that people, as I say, graduate with a master's in fine art, not finance. And so when you say, great, you want to apply for a loan, you need a business plan. What's a business plan? And so we knew we also had problems or issues that we needed to resolve around how do we equip people who have sort of an entrepreneurial vision of sorts, and may not be, what we would consider a more traditional entrepreneurial vision of starting up a renewable energy company, for instance. But these were people who certainly had an idea and wanted to implement it. So those were some of the things that we were challenged with. And we had a community that was very interested in what we were going to be doing with this position. So we've done a couple of things. We've created a revolving loan program specifically for creative enterprises within the city and county of Denver. We've also done a Create Denver Expo, which we just held a couple weeks ago. Again, technical assistance around everything from social media and marketing to how to write a business plan to how to pitch the media. We've also done some things around advocacy, what we call cultural mapping. So we want to know where things are located in the city and county of Denver. Where are galleries having to move? How are we seeing how this cluster, our creative cluster, is moving around the city based on affordability, based on issues of appropriate space, zoning, that sort of thing, and looking at land use. So looking at this really from a planning perspective and an economic development perspective, not just wouldn't it be lovely to have, a strong art museum. Really thinking about it from, less about maybe arts for art's sake and more about how do we grow the sector so that we continue to achieve great benefit from it, including, like I mentioned, being a creative city and being perceived as a city that is vibrant and vital, and arts and culture play a part of that. The last thing I want to mention too is that this sector is growing. Gaming sector is huge. Media, Facebook, all of those are huge companies. And in fact, Governor Ritter and Mayor Hickenlooper were in California just as earlier this week and last week, because they know that these sectors, high-tech sector, which we often think of as just being the Sun Microsystems, well, it's not. It's things like Google, it's things like Facebook, and these are all creative jobs that are in some way, shape, or form supported by the creative industries. So we know that, again, the sector is growing, and in fact, the Colorado Council on the Arts just recently did a study that shows that if you aggregate the sector statewide, we are, I think it was the third largest sector in the state of Colorado. So again, behind, I think, healthcare and biotech, or healthcare and aerospace, one of those two, but big sectors. And so again, there's a lot of reasons I think that why this should matter, and it should matter beyond just arts and culture. So thank you for listening to me.
And who are you again?
My name is Ginger White. I'm with the Denver Office of Cultural Affairs, City and County of Denver.
Well, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.